Hey guys, welcome back to the Beyond the Game podcast. My name is Jess Crowe, and today we're joined by Will Bosisto. Will, how's it going? Thanks for coming on the pod.
Yeah, going really well. Thank you, Jess. Excited to have a chat and see what this is all about.
So as I say, we're going to be talking about your journey and career through cricket here today. But before we do that, let's go right back to the beginning. Where was it first introduced into your life?
Good question. I started cricket. My first memories of cricket are playing with my dad down the local park. I can remember I'm sports mad. I loved what I call footy, being an Australian, which is Aussie rules football. And so I grew up loving Australian rules football in our winter and cricket in our summer, amongst many other sports, hockey, tennis, golf, surfing, you name it. I'm a massive sports lover. And my first memories of cricket are waking dad up in the mornings, getting him to come down to the local park, bowl at me. I would bat for an hour or so before school, and then race back and get the school clothes on and head off, and then probably play more cricket at recess and lunch at primary school. So those are my first very fond memories of playing cricket.
Excellent. And I think, as you said there, a big part of cricket growing up for a lot of players, they'd say, is getting mum and dad out of bed and getting them to bowl at you in the backyard. And it obviously brings quite a sentimental value. Do you resonate with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel, even just talking about that, I haven't sort of thought about that for a long time, but yeah, dads and mum are still very, very passionate supporters of my journey. And yeah, thinking back to all the hours I spent down with dad, and now being a dad myself, I've got a little 7-month-old boy, and I'm quite excited for, if he's into sport and being able to share those same memories that I had growing up.
I was going to say, has he had a bat in his hand yet? Bat and ball yet?
He can't quite crawl yet, so I don't think he's quite ready for that. But yeah, trying to encourage whether it be tennis balls or the little soft squidgy cricket balls or whatever it may be. But he seems a bit more into books and other bits and pieces like my wife at the minute. So we'll see how we go.
So you said that you played a lot of sports as a kid growing up. When did you start to specialise and take cricket more seriously?
Probably around about the time I finished high school, I reckon, from memory. Yeah, I remember, as I say, being very passionate about Aussie rules, playing lots of that as well. Played lots of hockey, played lots of tennis, but I probably loved a lot of sports equally, but cricket sort of became probably the number one for me, mainly because I reckon I was interested in seeing different parts of the world, and so that was an international sport. I always wanted to play a team sport, so that sort of cancelled out a few options. And then and probably the fact that as a cricketer, I don't think you necessarily are restrained by too many physical limitations as such. So you don't have to be sort of super tall, or you don't have to be super fast, or you don't have to be ridiculously strong, or I think it relies so heavily on the mental aspect of the game. So I feel like it caters for all shapes and sizes, I guess, in that sense. And so yeah, as a footy player, as a young footy player, I was always quite a small kid, and so that I used to get knocked around a little bit, and so that probably led me towards thinking, oh well, maybe cricket's a more sensible and provide me with a bit more longevity, which yeah, I'm super grateful, because it has provided me with that longevity and that enjoyment, seeing so many different parts of the world, meeting so many different interesting people from different cultures, and I'm still so passionate about the game and feel like the best is yet to come. So very, very grateful that whenever that was, I can't quite recall, probably around the end of high school, that I sort of chose cricket, I suppose.
Excellent. And now Australia has produced many greats of the game. So who are your biggest inspirations growing up and watching the game on TV?
Michael Hussey is the first one that comes to mind. As a fellow West Aussie, I can remember trying to leave school as quickly as I could after the school bell, race down to the Wacker, get a train and a bus to the Wacker to try and catch the last session of the Shield games, watching Huss. Another guy I remember watching bat, or loving seeing bat, was Ryan Campbell. He was, pretty aggressive keeper batter, opened the batting for West Australia. I loved Kumar Sangakkara and Mahela Jayawardene, two Sri Lankan players. I suppose I've had lots of different players that I've loved. More recently, I've loved watching AB de Villiers and just seeing him, I suppose, reinvent short form cricket and just the ability to hit the ball wherever he liked. So trying to practice some of those sorts of skills. But I think that's the beauty of the way that cricket has gone over the last couple of decades, is seeing so many new skills come into the game and seeing people with real flair have a real impact in the short form of the game.
Did you ever take inspiration from aspects of those players' game and sort of implement it in your own that you actually still see in your game on the field today?
Oh, I'd like to think I see aspects of AB de Villiers in my game, but obviously nowhere. So certainly no one else has commented on that. So maybe that's just in my dreams. But yeah, I suppose you watch your heroes and you think, wow, like they're so skillful, and even just going to the nets with your mates or at local trainings and things like that, trying to implement different aspects that you see them implementing on TV. Yeah, have I taken inspiration from it? Yeah, I guess in that sense. Have I been able to reach those heights? Absolutely not. But that's the beauty of cricket. You're just striving to get better, and it's a game where you're never satisfied, and you can always add different strings to your bow, which I think makes it such a wonderful sport.
And now, while we're taking a trip down memory lane, then, do you remember that first six you hit or wicket you took, and that sort of immense pride that you felt as a kid?
I can remember my very first innings of a sort of a competitive, or what would have been considered a competitive game of cricket, and I was playing against a guy who I'm still close friends with and who still plays for Western Australia and has played for Australia in one-day international cricket, Joel Paris, so left-arm swing bowler. And I remember we were playing against, we lived in a pretty similar area, and went to school together, and we've probably played with and against each other more than anyone else I know of. And I remember playing against Joel in this particular game, and that's sort of my main memories, is thinking, that it was this big rivalry between a close childhood friend, and he was a good player. So yeah, I remember getting 5 not out off my 18 balls that you were allowed at that stage, which is would be pretty frowned upon in this modern era. But yeah, as a skinny 7 or 8 year old kid at the time, I was pretty chuffed with myself. So that's my first memories of a competitive game. In terms of sort of first six or first wicket, I don't have any recollections. I wouldn't have hit too many sixes as a young kid. I was probably 30 or 40 kilos dripping wet, I reckon, until I was almost an adult. So it wasn't troubling the six hitters too often, but it's been nice to sort of add more strings to my bow and feel like I've got more of a power game and ability to score more quickly now, which has been very satisfying to sort of experience that journey.
Okay, so how would you describe yourself as a young player, and where did your sort of characteristics lie in that squad?
As a young player, I think I was and still to this day, I think I was very determined to get the most out of my ability. Very passionate, hugely competitive and team oriented. I feel like I was always determined to contribute in any way that I could to helping the team win the game, and that's never shifted for me to this day. I think my strengths have always lay in my sort of tactical understanding of the game, or my ability to navigate different conditions, ability to problem solve things that perhaps I haven't seen before, and I've found I've always got the best out of myself when it's been a game, when it's been, for example, a run chase. So the scenario is right there in front of you, and the required run rate is X, and you've got to have different risk tolerance, and now we've got 5 wickets down, so you need to play slightly differently. So probably my strengths lay in playing according to the situation, and helping my team and teammates to play according to the situation and get a winning result out of whatever the situation demands. So it's probably a long-winded way of saying I feel like my strengths are not necessarily in the specific skills of the game. I don't necessarily have the prettiest cover drive or other things that other players are capable of, but I think my ability to sum up the game situation and do what's required.
Excellent. Now, looking into the more professional side of your career then, what was your first experience of grade cricket in Australia?
First experience was as a 16 or 17-year-old probably, and coming up against, I think in my first game of grade cricket, I was playing against 3 or 4 professional cricketers in the other team, which is somewhat rare because in Perth there's 16 teams and, let's say there's 20 to 25 contracted players. So on average, most teams have got 1, maybe the odd team has 2. And, they're not always available if there's state games and things like that on. But I remember on this particular game, the opposition had 3 or 4, maybe even more. They were pretty stacked, particularly their bowling lineup. And I opened the batting. I got through to lunch, not out, which I was super chuffed with. And then I remember getting dismissed not long after lunch. And that was probably a good lesson for me, even to this day, at just the importance of never get too far ahead of yourself. Like I can remember sitting at lunch thinking, wow, like I'm a young kid and I'd built up that A grade cricket is going to be really challenging. And, and so I was sort of super pumped to have got through the first session and still be in. And then, I was dismissed not long after lunch. That's probably a pretty good reflection of the game of cricket, of just the importance of staying present, the importance of not getting too far ahead of yourself and sort of staying in your lane, I suppose. So, good lesson for me there. But that's my first memory of grade cricket in Perth.
And that excitement and responsibility of opening the batting or batting at the top of the order, is that something that you carried through the rest of your career?
Yeah, I have opened the batting a lot and I enjoy it. It's certainly got its challenges. I mean, the wicket's generally at its most favourable for the bowlers. The bowlers are the most fresh. The ball's brand new. So, it has its challenges. I've probably spent a lot of my last sort of 3-4 years of my career batting at number 3, which I really enjoy, particularly, if it's a long form game and, you go into bat late in the day and, it's a 10-minute changeover, the openers are out there. Whereas if you're number 3, you've sort of got, sometimes you've got a little bit more time, and hopefully there's no early wickets. So buy yourself a bit more time. But I've always enjoyed challenging myself. And I feel like a lot of the best players generally do bat in the top 3 because that's the hardest time to bat. And they're the most well equipped to get through the most difficult of circumstances. So I've always prided myself on my ability to do that, I suppose. And the batting coach that I've spent a lot of my time working with, he was an opening batter himself, and he often speaks about the difficulties of opening the batting and the fact that the best players embrace those challenges. So that's always stuck with me, and certainly something that I do enjoy.
Are there any other coaches that sort of guided you through the early days of your career that have particularly stuck with you?
Yeah, I still work to this day with a childhood coach, and he's been a mentor right through my life. He's into his 70s now. I think he would have seen more cricket than anyone else on the planet. I wouldn't mind guessing. He goes to the UK every English summer, and he coaches in Australia every Australian summer. He's been a full-time cricket coach since he was in his early 20s. He had a car accident and injured his knee, so he had to stop playing in his early 20s. Well, he's had to stop playing sort of seriously. He still kept playing a bit of social cricket, but he's done over 100 summers of back-to-back cricket coaching. So I don't know that there'd be too many people in the world, certainly not in Australia, that I know of, who've done over 100 summers of cricket coaching. So he's a wealth of knowledge. Some would say he's obsessed. He is absolutely cricket obsessed, but so am I. So perhaps that's why we resonate and get on so well together.
While we're talking about cricket obsessed, who are some of your teammates that you played alongside that are the biggest cricket badgers you know?
Jake Weatherald would be right up there. He's a big analyzer, thinker of the game, incredibly hard worker, seriously talented player, and wonderful human being. He would be right up there as a cricket badger. But if you said to him that he's a cricket badger, he'd try and play it off that he was, this cool dude who was more interested in guitar and things outside of cricket. But he is cricket obsessed. Who else would be up there? James Bracey plays for Gloucester. He's cricket obsessed. We share a passion for that, talking all things cricket. They would probably be the two that come to mind.
Excellent. And now, when did you realise that cricket could be of a potential, professional career path for you?
I think everyone says, oh, they've got a dream of playing for their country, and I think I was certainly in that boat. Funny you ask, I've always, even when I was a little kid, I think I followed the West Australian cricket team more closely than I did the Australian cricket team. I have no idea why, or that was just, they were the sort of guys that I really looked up to. I remember Justin Langer was captain of the state at the time, along with Mike Hussey, two of my favourite players at the time. So I remember sort of following their journeys, and they obviously had lengthy international careers, both of them. Yeah, I don't know. No specific moment. Probably playing my first Shield game, and I feel like I, handled myself well. I got 40 odd in the second innings, and I think I got 15 or so in my first innings. But I remember I felt totally at ease, and I felt like I belonged. So probably when I had that experience, I thought, as a 18-year-old guy on debut, to feel like he belongs playing at the MCG against a really strong Victorian Sheffield Shield team at the time who'd dominated the competition for years, I probably felt like, there's no reason why this can't be a career for me. And probably my career has had lots of ups and downs, probably lots more downs than I would have anticipated at that time as an 18-year-old. But I certainly don't look back on that with any regrets or with any sort of ill feelings. I've been really grateful for the journey that I've had to date, and I'm hopeful that the best is still yet to come, but I'm equally just grateful of the joy that the game brings me, and all the incredible people that I've had the pleasure of meet by just being involved with such a wonderful game. And the game, it's such a leveler, cricket as well, and so I'm sort of really grateful for that. But I don't think I ever there was no one moment necessarily where I felt, I can do this. I think I've just always had pretty good belief and always been a competitor that if I'm thrown in any situation, I'll find a way.
Great stuff. And then you talk about that sense of belonging that you felt in that squad. Were there any more senior players that maybe contributed to that feeling at all?
Definitely. Sean Marsh is one that comes to mind. Just a great player, lovely bloke, always made you feel as if you were his little brother and that he had your back, and that just walking out alongside him was a joy. Adam Voges and Michael Klinger were two of the other experienced players in the team at that time who, their records speak for themselves. Both had amazing careers, and they were two guys to be able to just watch how hard they worked and how well they went about things. I think as a young player, I was very lucky to be exposed to their work rate, and also their capacity to keep getting better right the way into the back end of their careers. Like, I think they both had their best years of their cricket careers from age 33 to 37, 38 when they retired, or near enough around those years. So that was nice to be able to see that you've got a long time in this game, and particularly as a batter, often your best years are in your 30s, and not to try and rush improvement or rush. I think as a young player, you try and you want everything right now, and as a society, we want sort of instant gratification. But I don't think life works that way, and certainly not with something as hard as cricket. You sort of have to bide your time and just keep getting better, and when opportunities present, make the most of them.
So one of the biggest moments in the early days of your career was, of course, leading Australia in the under-19s World Cup as captain. Tell me about that time and that inevitable responsibility and also nerve that came along with that.
Like you say, it was a really, really proud moment of my career. It's something I still look back on, with great pride, and really fond memories of mainly of the people that I got to play with as much as anything else. Obviously you're representing your country in a sense, and that's amazing. But the thing I probably look back on most fondly is the fact that I got to play with a number of guys who I'd still call close friends now, and even if I don't speak regularly to everyone in the team, for example, everyone in the squad for that year. It's been nice sort of following their journeys in cricket, and lots of those guys have had really, really wonderful careers. So it's been nice bumping into them at different stages along the journey, and having a chat about life. And with all of us entering our 30s now, having kids involved, or other aspects to people's lives, which as 18-year-olds you don't envisage happening so quickly. So really, really fond memories, and it was a wonderful part of my career that obviously thrilled has happened, but is such a long time ago now. And I certainly hope that I've done more in the game for that not to be a sort of the main or the premier sort of focal point of my career. And I hope to have achieved many more things by the time my last ball is hit.
Of course, no, absolutely. But so as a young 18-year-old, obviously you told me earlier that you were quite a driven player. What did that preparation look like, both mentally and physically, for you before those games?
Good question. I think mentally I probably didn't really have it. I certainly do nowadays, but that's taken me a long time to learn, and working alongside sports psychs and gathering info from other players that I've had the privilege to play with. So mentally I probably didn't do anything, to be brutally honest, which sounds crazy saying out loud, but is just the reality. But physically, I've always worked really, really hard to try and be in as good a shape as I can be. I was usually following sort of fitness programs, whether it be at the WACA or the SACA or wherever I've been contracted at that time. And over the last couple of years, that's looked different because I've been able to sort of run that myself. And then when you become a father, you realise that time is super precious, and so you sort of have to start prioritising. And I probably, being such a lover of the game, I've probably spent a lot of hours that perhaps haven't been used as efficiently as they could have. But they're not. I don't view them as wasted hours because I was loving what I was doing. But I probably try and get really, really specific with my training nowadays. And that includes meditation and visualization and various other sort of mental strategies, as well as all the gym and the running and the skill work, which is it's all important. It all needs to happen, but I suppose I've had to get a bit more specific with prioritizing what gets done when.
Absolutely. And now we speak about the mental aspect of the game. Of course, taking on that captaincy and leadership role back in the early days of your game, is that something that came to you quite naturally, or is that something you've now developed throughout the remainder of your career, and that you've really carried through with you?
I think came relatively naturally to me in some senses. And I've always loved leading teams. I love the tactical aspect of it. One thing I've probably developed a lot more as I've got older is trying to be a better communicator, trying to be a better, better in my relationships, and better at trying to get the most out of my teammates, rather than it purely being an on-field, the captain obviously has the on-field tactical decision-making element of the role, but I think as I've got older, I've realised that I probably neglected the relationship building side of things. That's vital in good captains, and certainly the leaders that I admire, not just in cricket but in other aspects of life. I think they're highly skilled in those areas, so that they're probably the sorts of things that I've tried to keep working on, as well as my sort of love of the tactical aspects of the game. But leadership's something that I really enjoy. I also love playing in teams, not as captain, seeing how other captains go about their business, if I can learn things, or so either way I'm happy.
And do you have a particular captain that you work with that you've really sort of taken their expertise on board?
I think Ashton Turner's a guy who comes to mind, who, as we were similar ages growing up, so in some of the junior squads, one of us would be captain, one of us would be vice captain, vice versa. And watching his journey with the Perth Scorchers, he's been able to lead that team incredibly well, and just sort of picking the brains, not necessarily of Ash, but of some of his teammates and sort of getting an understanding of how he's able to help generate the best performances for them, whether it be, some of the fast bowlers bowling under pressure at the end, and what sort of messaging he's giving. And I think it does depend on the individual, and it depends on the personality to try and get the most out of people. But yeah, he's probably a guy who, I've sort of admired his leadership and his hunger to keep getting better, and his hunger to sort of learn and grow. I know he's involved in a number of sort of leadership groups. With Cricket Australia, I know they had a bit of a mentoring program going at one stage, and I know he's done some outside study and things like that. So there's probably some other things that I've taken on board from the way he's gone about it.
Great stuff. And as you quite rightly said earlier, of course, through the last 10 years of your career, you've taken it to new heights. And of course, one of those things being the Big Bash League over in Australia. But having the opportunity to play in a franchise league on home turf, what was that experience like for you?
Unbelievable. The crowds were incredible, and playing at Optus Stadium, which wasn't even built as I was growing up as a youngster. I'd only ever seen the WACA, so getting to play Big Bash both at the WACA and at the new Optus Stadium was amazing, and something I'd love another crack at, because I feel like I'd be far better positioned to make the most of opportunities like that nowadays with how much my game has come on over the last 3, 4, 5 years.
And now, of course, playing in both seasons of the Nepal Premier League as well. Could you possibly sum up for us that huge atmosphere at those games?
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? Obviously, you were at the NPL as well, and it was extraordinary, wasn't it? The passion for cricket in Nepal is unbelievable. As a country that borders India, who obviously has incredible passion for cricket, but it did take me by surprise that first season, just seeing the packed crowds and the cheering all game, and just how friendly the people are over there. It's an amazing country. People are genuinely passionate about seeing you do well, and that was a real blessing. And it probably sort of it reminded me in some ways why we play the game. Like cricket, at the end of the day, it's entertainment. It's we're entertaining people, and I think sometimes being as I suppose intense and as serious as I can have a tendency to be at times, I forget that just to take a deep breath and smile and almost look out into the crowd and just see how many people are being entertained by this game at the moment. And I think that's quite a nice feeling that I definitely got to experience in Nepal over the last couple of years, and hope to for many years to come, because I think that tournament is only going to continue going from strength to strength.
Of course. And now, what was your overall experience of Nepal? Is it somewhere you've been before?
I'd never been there before the cricket, but I was very grateful that I got to do a couple of sort of 1 or 2 day trips into the mountainous areas, saw some incredible views. Haven't done any hiking. I'd love to do a little bit of hiking at some point if I'm lucky enough to get back over next year. But there's some glorious scenery there, lovely food. And I think the highlight for me is just the people, seeing the smiles on faces. It is a really, really beautiful part of the world, and the TU cricket ground is picturesque. Especially the games played at the 4 p.m. time slot this year as the sun's setting. It is a glorious part of the world.
So, did you have any spots off the field in Nepal that you like to spend your rest days?
I can't remember the name of there was one coffee shop that we frequented just down the road from where we stayed. I actually went for quite a few walks. Just in the morning, I would just go walking through the streets and just explore and just see how the locals went about it. Bumped in, came across a few sort of, I suppose you'd call what we would call sort of markets, like fruit and veg type markets, just in sort of off the grid little courtyards. Yeah, I mean, we did a beautiful trip up to, I think it was Chandragiri, the cable car up the top, and you get a glimpse of Mount Everest from up there. There's a viewpoint where you get a glimpse of Mount Everest and a few of the other um, of the highest mountains in the world. We also did a team. I can't recall the name of the place that we went as a team. We did about a 3-day trip in between two of our fixtures. So we stayed in a lovely hotel in the mountains, and played some games and things like that together as a bit of a team bonding exercise. That was really enjoyable. So yeah, I suppose tried to get a bit of a glimpse of the cold country in some ways, and just sort of see how they went about things. And yeah, as I said, even away from the cricket field, I found just the gratitude of the everyday Nepalese people was something that's a real joy to see. Like, I loved seeing the smiles on faces, and yeah, it was a real reminder for me not to take what we consider as very privileged people, I think, in living in well-developed countries, that not to take those things for granted, and just how lucky we are, because there's less fortunate people out there who are just grinning from ear to ear with access to less toys and gadgets and all the rest of it. So yeah, it was a real joy, and a country I absolutely love.
No, so you played then in Bangladesh, the Bangladesh Premier League, you played the Hong Kong Sixes over there at the NCL as well. But do you have a favourite place in the world that you always love and enjoy going back to and playing cricket?
I haven't been to India for a long time, but I loved playing cricket in India. And I loved, in much the same way that I've been so fond of my time in Nepal, I found India equally welcoming and equally A, passionate about cricket, but B, passionate about seeing people do well. And I just think that's such a beautiful trait in people when they're desperate for when they're desperate for people to play well, whether or not you're playing for the team that they're supporting or against. They love seeing a great catch or a good shot or something like that on the cricket field. I loved my cricket experience in Bangladesh. I loved my time in America, which was a very, very different experience, because coming from a country where cricket is not, that hasn't been a well followed or well played sport, I suppose, being baseball background. But I can see cricket really growing in North America. I got the opportunity to play in Canada recently, which I loved, and what a beautifully scenic part of the world. Vancouver was arguably the most picturesque place I think I've been in my life. It was incredible. So yeah, so fortunate that to get opportunities to do something that you love in all these different parts of the world is just incredible. And I suppose one of my big goals for 2026 is to play in some of the parts of the world that I haven't had the privilege to play in as yet. So I'd love to play in the Caribbean. I'd absolutely love to play in South Africa. So yeah, they're some of my big ambitions for 2026, is to continue experiencing the wonderful world with cricket as an avenue to express myself, and I suppose show my skills and my passion for competitive cricket, but also to experience different parts of the world and see different cultures.
And then away from the field, away from cricket, how do you spend your day to day? And then also, whilst you're away, how are you spending time off the field as well?
Probably when I'm away, I'm not doing a whole lot, as in I'm putting a lot of focus into recovery, into just sort of preparing mentally, whether it be visualization, watching footage, my training, making sure my body's in good shape and things like that. So probably when I'm away, I'm very, very dialed into my cricket, and I probably, other people probably think that I'm over the top at times with just how focused or how single-minded I feel I need to be to feel prepared. But I love that. and then when I'm at home, I probably spend my spare time. I love my golf, so I usually get out on the golf course a fair bit. But since my little 7-month-old boy has been around, I've played one round of golf. So that probably tells you where my hobby time has now gone into, which again I absolutely love and is a real joy. Something that brings me real joy now is seeing him smile and seeing him develop. Love spending time with my wife. We go down the beach. We live not far from the coast in Perth, which we're really lucky to do. Spend time with family and friends. Yeah, probably nothing too abnormal, I wouldn't think, as a boy who's grown up in Perth and lived close to the beach all my life. Yeah, that's probably mainly outdoor type hobby activities, and anything involving a bat and a ball or a stick and a ball, I'm never too far away from.
You're there. And then you mentioned earlier that your biggest aspirations coming up in the 2026 season is sort of making your way around the world a bit more, sort of your bigger involvement in franchise cricket. But what do some of those aspirations look like for the next 5-10 years, let's say, of your career?
Good question. Yeah, I certainly feel as if I'm improving as a player. Every tournament I get the opportunity to play in. And I feel like I've had some really good results in the franchise tournaments that I've had opportunities in so far. So I'm just hoping that those strong performances are awarded with future opportunities, and hoping to branch out into other leagues around the world. So another place I'd be hugely passionate to play in that I've never had the opportunity to is in Pakistan. Watching Australia tour there for a test series. Again, another country that is besotted with cricket, with hugely passionate fans. So I guess, my goals over the next 5 to 10 years are, they're going to be largely focused around franchise cricket. I mean, I've grown up all my life. I've probably dedicated to playing red ball 4-day cricket or long form cricket, whether that be for Western Australia or trying to play for Australia. And unfortunately, I haven't played for Australia. Now, is that dream completely squashed and over? No, it's not, but I'm not naive to think that that's going to be really difficult. Australia tends to look at, I suppose, the next big thing, or the younger players who are coming through and put their attention into those sorts of players. So from that perspective, I'm sort of aware that into my 30s, perhaps I'm not going to be afforded opportunities that I was as a younger player. But in the franchise world, players are picked purely on merit, and on your performances. Players are not, the age of players doesn't come into consideration anywhere near as much. In fact, a lot of the tournaments that I've played, I've sort of looked around at a lot of the overseas players and felt like I'm one of the youngsters, because, a lot of guys, generally people are at their best in cricket when they're, into their 30s, even late 30s. And, now we're seeing people play into their 40s as well, as long as you keep yourself in good shape and really look after your body, which I've always prided myself on. So, I'm just hopeful that, I've got a lot of really good years left in me, and probably the shorter formats of the game are going to suit, what I'm looking to do, and also opportunities for my family to be with me and travel the world would be something that is pretty attractive to us as a family as well.
Excellent. And finally, then, we spoke earlier about sort of your character within a team when you were sort of an up-and-coming young player, and that being quite that you wanted everything now, and sort of you said that you needed to, if you could look back and tell yourself you'd slow down and sort of take it a bit slower. What advice would you give to a young aspiring player?
It's such a good question, and I love listening to other people's answers to this, and so I hope I'm giving someone a useful piece of advice when you ask me that question, Jess. But it's a tough one. I think I think a good piece of advice is to stick to a process and don't underestimate the value of daily wins, I suppose. Or I remember hearing the phrase daily vitamins. So if you keep doing good things over and over and over and over again, you don't necessarily see the improvement right on that day, or even, a month later or 3 months later, but over time you will eventually see improvements. And so I think as a younger player, I would have loved to have been more aware and more trusting of that concept. I think I was always trying to get to a training session, and by the time I leave that training session, I'd mastered the cut shot, for example, or I'd mastered the sweep shot, and it just doesn't work like that. And the more life I live, nothing works like that. It's just a combination of just adding good bits of work daily, and just being really, really consistent with my I suppose training habits, sleep habits, diet habits. If you do everything consistently, your results are more likely to be consistent. And I think that's what all cricketers and anyone who's aspiring in life wants: consistency of good results. So I think doing everything else consistently would probably be the advice I'd give to my younger self.
Excellent. Well, look, Will, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and all the best for the season ahead.
Thanks so much, Jess. Thanks a lot for having me. Cheers.